And hello everyone, welcome back to another Meteor tutorial. As always, if you do fall behind, we do have our code on GitHub. We'll be doing number 4 here, so if you need some CSS or you need some, if you maybe have fallen behind, you just need to catch back up, you can go git clone our code right here and then use it for yourself. Perfect. So I'm just going to close that. Now currently we have the ability to add new tasks, so that's what we did in the previous video. So we can add new tasks and do what we want. However, we cannot delete those tasks, and we can also not say that we have completed them by checking them. So today we will focus on being able to check and delete them. Make sure your app is running in background though, so before we get started. And we can just drag this down because we don't need it at the moment. And here we go. So we want to go to task.jsx. If you're not sure where that is, it's right inside of import UI. And we want to add a checkbox so we can say whether we have done it or not. So we can just go here and boom. We also want to put this inside of a span and also add a delete button. So let's create those. So I'm going to say input colon checkbox. This is special emit syntax to create an input of type checkbox. This is only available in VS Code and other IDEs or text editors that uses emit. We also want a span with the values, or we don't have to put any values in them right now. And then we also want a button with the values and times, and then a semicolon. And then just press enter, and here we go. We can delete the name and ID, we won't be using these. And then we can just do that and move this right into this location right here. Boom. Cool. Now if you save this, then you should see a checkbox and a button with a times symbol on it once everything has refreshed, as you can see right here. So this right here, that's special HTML syntax to create a times symbol. If you don't want to use this, it's perfectly fine to go for an X, although I feel an X does not look as natural as it should for a close. You can do more with this, just for in case you might be wondering. You can also put something like and GT, which means greater than. This is just basic HTML that you can add right there. Anyhow, so this is just special syntax that you can use. Then here we have our checkbox. We can check them if you wanted to. And here we have a span that takes in the text that's inside of the checkbox, or that's inside of the task. So currently we want to take in 2 more things, which we'll be adding later on. That will be the on checkbox click and the on delete click. Not delta, but delete. So before we actually add these to these right here, we can actually just go code them first. If we go here, then we want to be above the export const app. So we're inside of our app.jsx, which is in import UI. Then here we want to say function toggle checked. And this will just toggle our checkboxes. Then inside of it, we want to destructure some things, and we want to take in the ID as well as the is checked value. So this will take in an ID value. So because remember, with this text, which is stored inside of the database, there will be an is checked value. I know we haven't really officially added that to all of our tasks, but this will also add it for us if it's not there already. Anyhow, and that will contain if it's checked or not, a true or false Boolean value. And then we can check it if we have it checked. So here we can say task collection, and we can just say dot update, and we can pass in the ID of the thing we want to update. So in this case, let's say we want to, this one's ID 1. So we then pass in 1, and then we say whether we want it to be checked or not. So then we can just say comma, and then in curly brackets, we can say $set, and this will set the value for us. And you can just say colon and more curly brackets, and here we can say is checked becomes not is checked. Basically meaning, okay, if it is checked, then make it not checked. So if it's true, make it false. If it's false, make it true. That is what we're saying here. We'll do the deleting later, but right now I believe we just need to learn how to check it. You can also open up your NoSQL booster for later when we want to check this. Anyhow, then down here inside of the tasks, we can just say on check, was a checkbox click that we used? Yes, it was. I'm going to copy that, go back here, and I'm going to say on checkbox click is equal to, and then we have our toggle checked. And we can pass it in here. Perfect. Now I can save it and go back to task.jsx, where we now have this on checkbox click, which we'll be adding to this checkbox right now. So first we want to say it should be read only, because we won't be changing it on the onChange event. We'll be changing it on the click event, so we should make it read only just so we don't have to worry about that. And then we can say if it is checked, so we should put here whether it is checked or not. So this will just check it if it isn't checked, or if it will check it if it is checked and uncheck it if it's not checked. Then you can say not task.is checked. So what this will do is it will take in the task and it will check is it checked. So if it is checked, we may not receive a Boolean value, and we do need a Boolean value for this. So it's going to make it, so let's say it's true, it's going to make it false. And that will convert it into a Boolean value by default. And then we're just going to change it back, so we're going to make it true again. So if it's not a Boolean value, it's going to make it false, or if it was false, it's going to make it true, and that's going to turn it into a Boolean value, in which case we can just turn it back by adding another exclamation mark. I hope you understood what I meant there. And then we can also add in onClick. And this onClick event, we just get it right, there we go. We'll just call the onCheckbox click. And this onCheckbox click will take in the task. We pass in the task because once it gets called here, because the onCheckbox click will call the toggle checked, and the toggle checked will need an ID and a checked from a value passed in. We're destructuring it. Then we'll get the ID from the task and the is checked value, and then it will change it if required. Okay, and let's actually check it out. So we open up our NoSQL booster here, and we just ask it to display the tasks for us. Then this I am updated has no checked value. This is actually perfect, since we can now see how it adds that checked value. And by default, this will then be false. So that's the I am updated, which is right here. Check it. And to make sure it works, we can first refresh. And if it's still checked on the refresh, then it probably worked. So let's see. It did not stay checked. Oh, okay, that's strange. Here it does say it is checked right now, but we are not seeing it here, which means we did something wrong. If you just remove that, we did something wrong here with the check, and that should be checked, not check. Now this should be checked, as you can see right there. And you will also see here, once you rerun it, that now it has an is checked value of true. If we were to uncheck it and then run it, and as you can see, its is checked value is false. And if it doesn't have a checked value here, it will create it for us. So that's how cool that can be. So now we can check them, and then once we refresh, so if we just go like that, if we refresh, then they all should be checked. As you can see there, they're all still checked. Now I can work on the deleting. So we have an on delete click here. I'm going to copy that. And I'm just going to go down here and say on delete click is equal to nothing for right now. And then we want to go back up to maybe just below the toggle checked. And we can say function delete task, and that will take in an destructed ID. So we'll pass in the task and get the ID from it. Here we can say task collection dot remove, and we just pass in the ID, and that will remove that value from the database for us using the ID. Then we can just copy that delete task and pass it in here. Save it. Now if we go back to task.jsx, we can go here and say on click, then becomes on delete click. And on delete click will take in the task that we want to delete. So let me just pass in task here. Perfect. Save that, and we should be able to now delete tasks that we added once everything has refreshed. And you can say that, and that. If you refresh and they don't reappear, that means you have done everything correctly. And there we go. They don't reappear, which means we have successfully deleted them from the database. So we can add now as many as we want. We can check it if we have completed it, and we can remove it if we wanted to. Yeah, and that is all for this tutorial. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all again in the next Meteor tutorial.